season. It's going to be so great. But look, let's go to our next guest, someone who we haven't seen in a while on We Are Tottenham TV, and he goes by the name of Rez. How are you, my brother?
Yay! Yay!
I blame Rez. When Rez is sat next to me, we don't lose. It's Rez's fault.
It's me. Yeah, no. But thank God. Thank you, Buddha. Thank you, Allah. Thank you, all the deities that we got rid of Conte. Because now we can play really good football, right? Because that's what we need. We need to play really good football.
And that's definitely going to happen under Conte's number 2, isn't it?
Yeah. Congratulations, guys. All of you are going, Conte played boring football. Yeah, that was good. Wasn't it? That was enjoyable today, wasn't it?
Because no, it wasn't.
As always, we focus on irrelevancies. So I'm going to try and help people focus on the actual relevant points by answering questions about the relevant subject. So by all means, ask me what you would like to talk about.
Well, Rez, let's talk about the game today, I guess. Let's start there. What better place than to start with the game today? And you know what? However bad Spurs were, we did nearly nick it right at the end with that equaliser from Danjuma, Richarlison right at the end. Bournemouth go up the other end and nick it. But what is it about this team, man, Rez? Can you make any sense into that decision to bring on Davinson Sanchez today?
Yes. It was an enforced substitution because Longley was injured. There was no need to make a tactical change. You bring on a defender in a like-for-like substitution. The question, the relevant answer or the relevant question is, why are we in a position where Davinson Sanchez is the player that we have to bring on when one of our central defenders is injured? And the reason for that is because we have a chairman who doesn't understand football, who looks at player investment as part of his business planning, not as part of his planning to win something. So we have our 4th best defender is Davinson Sanchez, a player who would struggle to get into any other Premiership side. That is the relevant point. That is what we have to discuss.
But I get that.
Hold on, Ben. I do need to say this. This is why I did that sarcastic opening about getting rid of Conte. Because we as a fan base, we sit here after a bad result, after a good result, after any result, in between results, talking about this player should do that. This manager should do that. That manager was this. This player could do this for us. Instead of focusing on the biggest drag factor, the only drag factor that exists in this club, which a number of us have been saying, for some of us for a long time, and that is the ownership of this club. Under Daniel Levy, this club will not progress beyond being just a bunch of also-rans, okay? We will buckle. The reason is because that chairman, A, does not care about winning at the expense of his investment. That is the first factor. And the other factor is that he is making up for his own inadequacies by being far too involved with the playing staff and with the actual the football side of things because of the fact that he is always there. If you go back and watch the All or Nothing documentary, when Danny Rose was being told by Jose Mourinho that he would not be part of his plans, Danny Rose turns around and says, okay, I'll go and speak to Daniel, as in Daniel Levy. That is not something that should happen. Our chairman is far too involved and he does not know football. He thinks that because he's been in place for 2 decades plus, that qualifies him to know about football. It doesn't. It tells him how the business side of football might work, but it doesn't tell him anything about football. And yet he thinks he does. As I said on Thursday, okay, the only guarantee that Tottenham Hotspur, the only guarantee that any manager at Tottenham Hotspur has is that guaranteed he will be screwed by Daniel Levy. And so I think that Daniel Levy should be our next permanent manager. So then maybe he'll go fuck himself.
He more or less is our manager anyway, isn't he?
That's the point.
Yeah.
But we can argue about the tactical decisions that Stellini made today. We can argue about whether or not Davinson Sanchez is a decent defender or not. But these are all irrelevancies. Answering or solving or coming to a consensus over those issues will not solve anything at Spurs. The consensus that the fan base should coalesce around is that our chairman is not fit for purpose. He is not fit for purpose. It is not a question of whether he's a good man. It's not a question of whether or not there are better men out there or women or worse men or women out there. At the moment, the key issue is that Daniel Levy is not fit for purpose because his decision-making lead to every negative outcome at Spurs. Why do we not have youth players coming through from the academy? It is because he has staffed or understaffed the academy with coaches that are essentially just yes men, who do not tell him the things that he needs to hear or he should be hearing as a chairman for him to fix. He doesn't like that. So he employs people that won't tell him those things. That's one thing. Why can other clubs seem to unearth these talents that we seem to miss? It is because he cut and hamstrung our scouting department in favor of a statistics-based system that's more like Football Manager, which a number of other clubs dabbled with and found wanting and rejected and put aside. But because it saves us money, he has persisted with long after other clubs put it aside.
I thought Spurs don't use that system because I thought that's
not
the
anymore.
System. That's the
Not
system
anymore.
that. Not anymore, because that's the system that Brentford, Brighton, and Liverpool were using when they were very successful.
No. They were successful at first, but then you find that when everyone else uses it, you're not actually gaining any great advantage. That system gave you an advantage over other players in concert with the scouting system. What Daniel Levy did is that he used it in isolation and then found eventually, after many years, especially after those 3 transfer windows, that it wasn't working and has eventually, under pressure from other parts of the club, to put it aside. This is a man who insists on any takeover that he should be retained as the chairman. Why? For what reason? What have you done to qualify yourself to be the person to take Spurs forward? You know, there are a lot of streamers out there who keep talking about accountability and the idea that, you know, a manager should be held accountable or a player should be held accountable. Okay, how about holding the chairman accountable? Who is he actually accountable to? Answer me that question. Someone come and tell me who Daniel Levy actually answers to. And this is why protesting is essentially the only option available to fans, and why a protest, no matter how big it is, no matter how small it is a valid thing to do, because he has no one else to answer to, no one to pull his strings and say, hold on a minute, let's look at your performance, shall we? Yeah, everything at Spurs has to revolve around the question of the ownership. We were a club that, no matter, even in our bad times, we're always in the conversation as a potential winner of things. We are no longer that. We are now encapsulated by Ferguson's famous halftime talk of 3 words: lads, it's Tottenham. That is what our club has been turned into by Daniel Levy. I don't care if he was part of ENIC or just some random person who had the money to buy it. Daniel Levy is the key problem here. And he has to go. He has to be removed from his position as any influence over the footballing side of Tottenham Hotspur as a football club, as an organisation.
How do you go about removing an owner, Rez?
The only thing that you can do, the only thing that a fan can do in this scenario is to protest, because unfortunately we have a disease here in that we believe that it is right and proper for a football club to be treated as a business. It isn't. And I'll tell you for why, because a football club does not work to the very, very basic fundamental of the capitalist system, which is supply and demand. There is no supply and demand in football. The fans do not choose. I can't say, well, this club doesn't quite meet my needs. I'm going to go and support, Man City because they're winners. That isn't a fan. We are a captive audience. We have to support. And Daniel Levy knows that. Okay? There should be a lot more anger over the shiny baubles that Daniel Levy has brought about. Because I'll tell you for why. Because although, the stadium will remain part of the club and the training ground will remain part of the club, the building of those things have turned him into a billionaire. They spent, ENIC, in total about £120 million on the various stages of the purchase of Tottenham that has led them to where they are now. Their asset is now, they value it at £4 billion. If they sell up, they walk away with £4 billion. Who pays for the stadium? We do. We pay for it. They don't pay for it. They haven't dropped a penny. In fact, Daniel Levy gets his seat free every other week for every home game. We don't. We pay a ticket price. And then that ticket price is what is used to pay off the stadium. But he still walks away with his profit. Okay, fine. That's the capitalist system. And we might be happy with that. But the fact that he is generating wealth through our money means that we should have a say in things, not be treated like customers, not be labeled legacy fans. Yeah?
Rez, just some breaking news coming out from Hugo Lloris from Charlie Eccleshare. It started earlier. It's when he came on the pitch. I've never seen this in my career. I feel really bad for Davinson. He's a teammate, he's a friend, and he's been fighting for this club for many years now, and it's just sad. The story is sad for the club, for the fans, for the player. It's something you don't want to see in football. And also, Stellini commented as well on the booing of Davinson Sanchez. I understand it's a tough moment for everyone, and we have to analyse this moment. Everyone needs to analyse how important it is to support the player.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can go over and over all the ramifications of what that substitution meant. But is that the first time that we have seen a player subbed on and then subbed off? Is it the first time we've even seen it at Tottenham? Everyone remembers Hossam Ghali throwing his shirt to the ground, but few remember that was because he was subbed on and then subbed back off again. It's happened a number of times. It's not that significant an event. What is significant is that we had one of the top 3 managers in the world, and we sided with the players against him. Okay? Because what Daniel Levy did in getting rid of Antonio Conte was say to the players, you can continue to behave as you have been in a way that has cost managers, your other teammates, this club, the fans who support it dearly over the years. You can continue to behave in that fashion. You can continue to not commit. Am I surprised that Davinson Sanchez is described by Hugo Lloris as a player that fights for that club? No, I'm not. Because I would imagine that he thinks that he could do a lot better than some of those that get picked week in, week out. The likes of Eric Dyer with his leadership. Yeah. Now, last time I checked, I've been a manager of people in the past. None of the leadership sort of training that I've undergone ever said that pointing to somewhere consists of leadership.
And shouting. Don't forget to
and shouting. Yeah, that's right. And shouting at people, you know. In fact, pointing and shouting is often seen as bad leadership. Okay. And yet this is a player that rumors are is going to get a contract extension. He is a player that could not get into the first team when we had better defenders and is arguably a worse defender. Not his fault because his development was damaged. But this player should not be, in the words of the commentator that I heard earlier today, marshalling our defense. But as a club, it is cheaper to renew the contract of Eric Dyer than to upgrade him. And so that is what we do. we go and do the cheap option to ensure return on investment. That is Daniel Levy's fault, not Eric Dyer's, not Antonio Conte's, not Christian Stellini's, not Jose Mourinho's, not Maurizio Pochettino's, not Tim Sherwood's, Andre Villas-Boas, Harry Redknapp, all of the managers that have come and gone under the stewardship of Daniel Levy. It's not their fault. It's not even the players' fault. It is his fault. And he has got to be rid. We've got to get rid of him out of this club if we can. I'm not saying we can. We might not be able to, but we should, at every opportunity, make it known that he is not welcome anymore.
There you go, Rez. Absolutely spot on, to be honest, for the most part of what you're saying. But thank you for coming on today, my friend.
Pleasure, my friend. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Big up.
And to you. Wow.